Hey guys, Miguel K here. Today's video is going to be a little different because the topic we are talking about hits close to home for me personally. So I'm sure you already seen the video of a person who has Tourette syndrome saying the N-word. And now some people are calling him a racist. So what I want to do is to make this video informative and give my own take on the matter. So let's start with what happened, what I'm talking about.
So here is what is going on, and I'm sure if you're in this space, you've heard the story. So they had the BAFTAs the other night, 2 nights ago now. The story is still going on, and for those who don't know, the BAFTAs are basically the British Oscars. You probably have no idea what they are unless you're really in the realm of talking about films. But anyway, it would have been, I guess, a wholly uneventful BAFTAs that no one talked about if it weren't for this event. So one of the films that was nominated was a movie called I Swear. And let me set up the context. This movie is all about a man with Tourette's. A certain kind of Tourette's. That means that, Tourette's is an involuntary tic. There's different forms of it. But the specific kind of Tourette's that he has that I think affects about 10% of people with Tourette's means that it's an involuntary verbal tic, where people with this form of Tourette's have the uncontrollable tic of saying, for example, very offensive things at the most inopportune moments. Like it shows in the movie, he meets the Queen and he calls her a see you next Tuesday. Now, this is probably news to a lot of people who were completely unfamiliar with this condition, or if you were, maybe you were unfamiliar with this form of the condition. But yes, it is a real thing that a certain amount of people struggle with, this tic where you will say very inappropriate things at the most inopportune times. And this was a movie called I Swear, literally called I Swear, about this man who has Tourette's, who has this verbal tic, who can't control it, and how it's affected his life and all of his struggles with that. That is why the movie is called I Swear. So here they are at the British Film Academy Awards, and there was an explanation. The man that the movie was based off of was there at the awards. Why wouldn't he be there? This is a movie that's being awarded that is all about the struggles he has faced in his life. Now, the people who were at the event were informed. This is what this man's condition is. He is going to, blurt out some things, some offensive things. He can't help it. This is part of his condition. Everyone at this event was briefed that that was going to happen. And I have a lot of thoughts about him being there and all of that. But what happened during this event is this man, during the show, Mr. Davidson, he did blurt out offensive things at inopportune times, like blurting out the F-bomb at people when they were winning awards and all this other kind of stuff, and that was just understood as his condition. But what happened is Michael B. Jordan was up there with Delroy Lindo, and they were presenting an award. And during this time that this happened, Mr. Davidson, who has this condition, blurted out the N-word, along with some other negative word there. And you can see that Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo really try to be professional about it and move on with the night. But then there was a major backlash about this happening and a major discussion. Now, when I heard it, and I heard that this word was blurted out, I went, what? But then when I heard the context of it, that this was from a man with Tourette's who has this very specific kind of Tourette's and that this is his condition, I was like, oh, because this was not said maliciously, nor was this said voluntarily. The entire reason why the movie that was made based on this man's life was made is to raise awareness for this condition. And the man removed himself from the event when he said those words, and because he could not control himself. Now, this has gone into a firestorm on Twitter. Now, to be fair, there are a lot of people who have come out and said, this guy obviously has this condition. It's not his fault that he's saying these things, and it is not said maliciously. And I'm very, very pleased to see that a lot of people did have that take about it. But other people are not being so understanding and not being so tolerant about it. For example, Jamie Foxx, actor, I believe Oscar-winning Jamie Foxx, has come out on Twitter and responding saying that that he meant it. That this man who's disabled, who has this condition, that he meant it. And so that was Jamie Foxx's take. And then there's other people on Twitter. For example, Grace Randolph, who I have lost all respect for. Like, I was once upon a time someone who would say, Grace isn't so bad. I watched her just for her box office analytics. She has just lost all sympathy and respect for me off of her reaction to this situation. Now, here's the thing. I understand people responding to this with ignorance because this is a certain type of a condition that maybe not a lot of people know about. And so I think that it's perfectly fair. And as we're extending grace out there to this person who cannot control his actions, we extend grace to people who might not initially understand it and might make an initial snap judgment about it. I think it's fine to accept that human beings are going to be human beings. But when you make a mistake and then you double down on it, because Grace's first reaction to this is, I certainly want Mr. Davidson, who has Tourette's, to have a nice life, but that anyone would defend Jordan and Lindo going up in front of their peers in a professional setting on television and having to be called a racist slur is ridiculous. No matter how Tourette's works, that the BAFTA subjective Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo to that is outrageous and shameful. This was handled so poorly. Footage is forever, and also this man Davidson will have to deal with that, the horrible fallout as well. True, which you are contributing to. But Grace said later, Tourette's means no filter, which means this man thought it. Despicable. The BAFTA's out here making fools of themselves in the entertainment industry, and she got community noted for that. So Grace says that she feels bad for the guy who has Tourette's, who is going to have to deal with the fallout for this. Then she goes and becomes a part of that fallout by saying that he meant what he said, and he did it on purpose, and he thought it, and that is what's despicable. She got community noted that actually people with this condition cannot control what they're saying, and that it is not reflective of their thoughts and beliefs. Now, once again, if Grace just was completely ignorant about this and was just flying off the handle and trying to take a side, and she spoke before she thought, fine, I can accept somebody making a mistake like that. But Grace came back. This was 2 days ago she started talking. She came back 2 days later, yesterday, and said, about John Davidson and Michael Jordan and Delroy Lindo, I've been thinking about it and listening to your responses. And while Mr. Davidson shouldn't be bullied, a lot of you are acting as if he not only can't control his offensive tics, he can't! But he has no idea he even has them. He does. He should therefore be considerate of others as you are asking others to be of him. Mr. Davidson didn't just say any word. He said a word that is deeply hurtful, dehumanizing, and not just a horrible history, but a horrible present. A word that must immediately be struck down, as should all slurs. And it is certainly reprehensible that the BBC did not edit it out of the broadcast when they had the capability to do so and exercise that capability in other scenarios. But just before we get into my thoughts on all of this, let's read some other tweets that people have been throwing out after this. If your Tourette's makes you yell racial slur at black people, then you should apologize every single time that happens. If I had Tourette's syndrome, I would be shouting things like end racism and women's rights instead of slurs. I even saw a person saying that if this person with Tourette's ever did that to him, he would beat him up. Showing all of the tolerance here. But here is what I want to get to here. We don't need to read any of the vitriol anymore at this. The context of all of this is they made a movie about this person with this condition where he is not in control of his actions. And when he says these things, that is what the entire movie is about. And here they are at the British Oscars, essentially. This is what it is. And he's there because this movie was made about him, and this film is being honored about, the hardship of a person's life with this. When, he says offensive things at the most inopportune times, he gets embarrassed, and people don't understand that. So they're going to honor this film for being a good film and raising awareness for this. And then a real life scenario, just like what is portrayed in the film, happens in real life. And we get to see the intolerance behind it. There's people saying that he shouldn't have even been there. And it's like, So you want to put away so that other people can be comfortable. You want to put away while you are basking in the glory of a film you made about his life, about how hard it is. You know what should have happened? What did happen is they explained to everyone this person is not in control of their actions and he's going to say stuff like this. They should have understood that and maybe taken a cue from the movie itself and actually been tolerant of it and understand that it does not come from a malicious place. Now, here's where I agree the BAFTAs did mess up, is why was that played on live TV to a huge audience of people? I don't know if the audience themselves were briefed on this so that people would have this reaction to it. I think it was intentional, honestly. That I don't believe that they made a big fumble like that to have this racial slur said on TV when they're supposed to have a delay when events are streamed live for this very reason, so that bad words can be bleeped out. Why was this the one time where apparently someone was asleep at the button and didn't do it? I think it's for the very reason that we're sitting here talking about it. I think no one was going to talk about this event or do anything, but now they certainly have their big story about it, which is this word being said on live TV, right there when Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo were presenting on the screen. But here is my overall take on this. I feel so bad for Mr. Davidson. I have no reason to believe that the people who made that movie had anything other than the best intentions to raise awareness for this condition. However, the problem is the people in the award circuits of Hollywood, the people who award these films. They award these films as much as it makes them look good when it's about these different topics, like people with disabilities, for example. But then when they are put to the test themselves, it shows how intolerant they are.
If you want to watch the full video, link in the description or comment section. Shout out to Jestabel, one of my favorite YouTubers. But yeah, I feel like people can be easily offended nowadays, and we don't want to learn from each other and move on with our lives. I'm surprised that people are hurt and some of them wish harm to people like him. This was the perfect time for Hollywood to practice what they preach, but instead a disabled person was blamed for something that he couldn't have controlled.
How are you feeling about the role and about the experience?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I never in a million years imagined that would be a possibility for me, particularly Snow White. In general, you don't normally see Snow Whites that are of Latin descent.
Yeah.
You know, even though Snow White is really a big deal in like Spanish-speaking countries, Blancanieves is like a huge icon. Whether you're talking about the Disney cartoon or just different iterations in the Grimm fairy tale and all the stories that come with it. Yeah. So she is really big in the Spanish language, but you don't particularly see people who, you know, look like me or are me playing roles like that. So it was definitely, when it got announced, it was a huge thing that was like trending on Twitter for days because all of the people were angry. And so it was like,
those people.
Very much this, yes, it was this
people
awakening
that we need to educate, the people that we need to love into awareness.
Love them in the right direction.
These people, to me, are hypocrites. They say they care about people like us, but when it's time to prove it, they'll put themselves first, above all else. Let's learn how to be tolerant and understanding to each other. We are not all the same people. In conclusion, I think we give this word too much power. Being black or white doesn't define who we are. It's our experiences. Even if we are all different, we are all one and the same. We all have white bones. Forcibly stopping people from using it or act a certain way won't end racism, but continue it. I think racism will just end when we become tolerant and understand our differences. We just have to treat it like just a word in special circumstances like this and move on with our lives. I understand the history behind that word, but it shouldn't have this much power over how we react to hearing it from different people.
And I experienced a bunch of racism, and everyone did. I never felt like it was a bad thing, mostly because of my family. You know, my mother is a black woman, Xhosa woman. My father is Swiss from Switzerland. And them being a couple was against the law, and that was a problem for us living together. And so we experienced a ton of racism. And in case you're wondering, yes, Xhosa is one of the languages with the clicks in it, right? Xhosa, but not like in American movies, just so you know. Yeah, I've seen those movies where they have Africans and they're like, That's not a language. Yeah. Even we watch those movies and we're like, I wonder what they are saying, yeah? Where are they from? I think they're from Cleveland. It's not just clicks. The clicks are consonants. We still have vowels. Yeah, I grew up in this family and we couldn't live together. I could live with my mom, but my dad obviously couldn't live with us because it was illegal. And people would be racist to us all the time. But I was really lucky growing up because my mom is probably the most gangster human being you'll ever meet in your life. Right? Nothing got to her. Nothing fazed her. And I remember one day in particular, we were walking through the streets together. And some guy across the road shouted something really mean at us. And I was about 4 or 5 years old. And I turned and I looked at my mom and I said, Mommy, what do we do if people do the racism to us? And my mom said, oh, baby, you know what we do if somebody's racist? We take that racism of theirs and we shake it up with the love of Jesus. And then we send it back. And I was like, what? And I was like, this lady's crazy. And she was crazy, but she was also right. Yeah. I didn't even realize how right my mother was until decades later, which I feel is what always happens with your parents, right? They're crazy, and then you get to their age, and you're like, oh, that's what it means. I only learned the lesson my mother was trying to teach me when, as a grown man, I was walking through the streets of Chicago. Minding my own business, some guy drove by in a pickup truck and called me the N-word. And I'm not gonna lie, I was disappointed. Mostly because he was driving a pickup truck. Yeah, I just felt like that was an unnecessary stereotype that he didn't need to perpetuate. You know? I feel like if you're gonna be racist, do something different. You know? Think outside the box. Drive a Prius. Yeah. It's better for the environment, and it's quiet. You can sneak up on me. We both win. But no, the guy was he was driving a pickup truck, called me the N-word, and to give you the full story, I was jaywalking, right? I was jaywalking, yeah. And I don't tell you this to justify what he did. I just want you to know that I'm no angel, okay? Yeah. I was crossing the road, and then the lights turned red for me, but I decided to walk anyways because I don't see color. And this man was so offended by what I had done that he drove his truck around me, rolled the window down, looked me dead in the eye, and he was like, get out of the road, nigger! Oh, and you could see he wanted to hurt me. We locked eyes, and I could see in that moment he was waiting for me to be like, no. But what that man didn't know was where I was from. More importantly, who he didn't know was my mother. Because he thought it was just going to be a regular racist day. He thought he was going to drive by, throw the N-word out the window, carry on with his life. He didn't realize that that was the son of Patricia stepping into the road. And it happened in a moment, but it lasted a lifetime. Because I didn't even think. He shouted that word, and out of nowhere, my body was like... I was like, oh shit, this is it! And let me tell you something, LA, it was so beautiful because I didn't plan it, I didn't think about it. All I know is I stepped into the road, he drove his truck around me, rolled the window down, looked me dead in the eye, and he was like, get out of the road, nigger! And I turned and I was like, you're my nigger! And he almost crashed and died. Yeah, I've never seen a human being question themselves so many times in a split second in my life, right? Because I was smiling, and I could see in his face, he was like, wait, do I know you? Do I look like someone you know? And I don't know why he did this, but I'll never forget it. He looked at his hands. He looked at his hands like they'd somehow magically turned black. Like Like I had cursed him with a nigger bomb. I don't even know what he was thinking. Oh, I actually felt bad for him, man. Because I've been called that word before, but that was his first time. Like, you never forget your first time, you know? Yeah, but I'm sorry, I'm not gonna what? Is that what he wants? He wants to throw the word at me and then my day is spoiled? Is that how it works? And we'll be like, nigger! And I'm like, I'm a nigger, come here, nigger. I don't have time for that, man. My mom always used to say, she said, you can't control what people do to you, but you can control how you react. So I promised myself, I said, I'll never give a racist person the pleasure of seeing my pain. Maybe painful, maybe hurtful, but I won't give them the pleasure of seeing my pain. Someone says something racist, I take that racism, shake it up with the love of Jesus, send it right back. And don't get me wrong, it's not always easy. Not everyone can do the same thing. Not everyone should. I also understand that for me, it is a little bit different. You know, I have a privilege in that I come from a country where the word nigger was never used to oppress anybody. You know, I mean, we had another word, because we had the best racism, come on now, but not that word. Yeah, the word we had was the word kafir or kafir. So we had another word, same thing. It's crazy to me as well sometimes. You know, same racism, different word. And here it means nothing, right? Kafir, kafir, nothing. Yeah, some people are like, is that like a probiotic? Is that what that is? Yeah, probiotic of my pain. Because we don't have that in our supermarkets for obvious reasons. No one warned me in America. I walked down the dairy aisle. I was like, oh, yogurt, ice cream. Ah! This lactose is intolerant. So it's different around the world, and I get that. You know, it's a privilege I have in dealing with the N word. You know, in South Africa, no one was called a nigger. All over Africa, no one was oppressed using that word. So that word has no power. Anywhere you go, nigger, 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 nothing. You know? Whereas right now, I can feel the tension in this room. I can feel it. Yeah, some people are like, God damn it, what is it, like 7 times? I get it, Trevor. That's my quota for the year. Come on. I get it. It actually got me thinking that maybe we could use that discrepancy to help each other out. We'll create a program where you guys send all of your racist people to Africa just once a year.
Because Africans will roast the shit out of them.
The best part about Africa is you don't even have to wait. You know, you just get off the plane, there's black people everywhere. Just jump straight in, just be like, nigger, nigger, nigger. Yeah, and because Africa is run and owned by black people, they're not afraid of white people there. They'll just be like, ah, Jimbo, he's back, the nigger man. How are you, nigger?